Good afternoon, everybody. So just a heads up, we got about 10 minutes, 3 minutes till 4:20 for those of you that are tracking, and about 10 minutes or so until we get started. A couple things I wanted to go over before the show today. Number one, self-promotion plug. So this evening, if you catch this show before 7:30 this evening at Lacuna Cava Bar in downtown Phoenix, I'll be giving another presentation. This one is going to be hosted through Higher Self-Friendly Chats, which is a LGBTQ plus friendly community, and tonight's conversation is going to focus around Indigenous people. All right. Just a couple more minutes, folks. Just trying to give everybody time to hop in. All right, let's go ahead and let's get things going here. All right, Well, welcome everyone. My name is Frank the Gray Mage. This conversation today is going to be about the secret power of belief. All right. So, what does that mean? Well, let's start by examining some of the powers of belief. Well, belief, actually, hang on a sec. I got a little cheat sheet for you guys. Belief, believe it or not, is the starting place of almost anything and everything that you do. And let's see, you guys don't need all that. So, beliefs, fundamentally, they create our thoughts, right? And then our thoughts create our feelings, which create our actions, and that creates our results, changing our beliefs. Okay, so if beliefs are at the beginning of everything, well, what does that mean? So, beliefs control your thoughts, meaning that anything and everything that you think at one point can be traced back to either a core belief or just something that you picked up. Hang on a sec, sorry, I'm trying to get my co-participant in here. Okay. Anyways, so beliefs are the starting place for all of reality in the sense that before anything can happen, someone has to have first believed it so. We're finding that in things like quantum technology, that the belief in a thing might actually be the reason that it exists. And what I mean by that is, if you haven't heard of the Schrodinger's cat experiment by now, I highly suggest that you check that out because it makes an excellent point of what I'm saying. So beliefs, fundamentally, are the starting point of all of reality. Now, there's some other properties about beliefs that I want to talk about. Some very odd things, some things that scientifically are kind of hard to wrap your head around. So let's start with the placebo effect, because I'm sure most of us are familiar with the placebo effect. Okay? So I got this article here that I pulled up from betterhealth.gov, and I want to read this little highlighted section for you guys. Some other things that help the placebo effect to work include the characteristics of the placebo effect. If the pill looks real, the person taking it is more likely to believe it contains active medicine. Research shows that larger sized pills suggest a stronger dose than smaller pills. And taking 2 pills appears to be more potent than just swallowing one. So let's talk about that metaphorically for a second. So the placebo effect, in case you're unfamiliar, is the brain's ability to create changes in the body that are medically unexplainable. The placebo effect first started making its appearance in modern medicine through medical trials. There was this odd phenomenon that they found, and it's still apparent today, that a pill made of sugar or chalk is about 50% as effective as medicine in certain clinical studies. Now, there are some extreme diseases in which this is not the case, like cancer. But they find with things like pain or the common cold, the placebo effect tends to cure people. And at the core of this cure is that person's belief that they are receiving medicine. So, metaphorically, what if we change the scope of this and we say instead of pills, all right, it is affirmations one does for themselves. Instead of, taking pills and telling yourself that it's a painkiller, what if every day you spent some time imagining what your version of success looks like, imagining you as that CEO, imagining yourself getting that promotion, imagining yourself saving up and getting that house, whatever it is that's your goal. If you spend time thinking and believing into your goals, it will create this placebo effect. The chance of this reality happening is going to increase over time. The more quote unquote medicine you take, the more times you swallow the pill, the more time you spend being in the idea of having these things. But I think it's deeper than that, right? So that's the science of it. And I'm going to try really hard to start with a scientific approach, because I know this is a very subjective idea that we're covering today. So, stepping into the science, all right, there's a couple other properties about belief that are very interesting. So obviously, the more belief that is had in a thing, the more likely that it will happen. Not just one person, but this is true. The more people that believe in a thing, the more likely that it will happen. Interestingly enough, this phenomenon is also measurable on an electromagnetic spectrum. So inside of the brain, we have found that there are particles of magnetic material. And these magnetic materials, they are kind of responsible for the generation of a magnetic field inside of your brain. Now, this magnetic field, it is shaped literally by your thoughts. If you hook somebody up to like an EKG machine and you watch their brain as they're being kind of questioned, you can see the shape of their magnetic field change based on what kind of brain activity are they forming. Are they looking for information in a database? Are they trying to create a metaphor? Based on like where they're at in their thoughts, the shape of their magnetic field will change. An interesting and fun fact about magnetic fields, if they touch, they will always pull or push on each other. And the nature of the pull and the push is based on the polarity of the thoughts. So things that are meant to attract will attract, and things that are meant to repel will repel. But essentially what this means is that because this magnetic field has been tracked anywhere from like 6 to 10 meters outside of the head, and it probably goes further than that. We just don't have sensitive enough, tools. But if you're sitting in a room with somebody in silence and you're having thoughts, there is a tug of war happening magnetically on each other's magnetic fields. All right, and Maxwell, one of the guys who kind of helped pioneer electromagnetic field theory, he would tell you that fundamentally what they're doing is they're trying to neutralize. They are trying to balance one another and become one magnetic field. Now, this magnetic field is also in tune with the Earth's magnetic field, which is touching the massive magnetic field of the sun, which touches every planet in the entire solar system and outside of our solar system. And then magnetic fields come in and out of our solar system. So you could say that magnets and magnetism is one form of energy motion that's highly present, not just inside, but outside of the body. Like a giant network for electricity to travel across. Interesting, though, that electricity happens to be how our brain stores these things like thoughts and consciousness. Just some fun food for thought. Okay, brilliant. I've already gone through all my resources. Not many people on the airwaves today. That's okay, though. So I wanted to ask a few people if they have any personal measurement of what I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about, fundamentally, like what I really want to talk about, is I feel that I've witnessed through my own eyes and my own being a sort of hyper state where my thoughts and my actions were extremely attractive to the reality in which that I was trying to create. And what I mean by this is like I've witnessed miracles, like self miracles. They're normally really small things, like having a thought about a friend and then receiving a phone call from them within 30 minutes. Like being extremely parched and then a stranger coming out of nowhere and offering you something to drink. These little transgressions is what I feel they are, against reality, where it seems that reality is almost compelled by one's beliefs. I think that through practicing belief, the belief is a practice, that if you choose to spend time strengthening one's beliefs or even changing one's beliefs, that will have a rippling effect all the way out into the way that reality returns to you. So what does that mean? Like, let's walk this through. So let's say that right now, right, this is a very common problem that people have, body dysmorphia. Let's say that someone happens to believe that they don't love the shape of their body. Well, this line of thinking has a way of justifying a subset of actions that makes it true, in the way that somebody who feels body shame might be embarrassed to go to the gym. Somebody who feels body shame might justify eating bad foods because what could it hurt? Now imagine, how is that person going to turn this around? Let's say that this person is extremely overweight, they've got acne problems. I picked those two because there's things that I've struggled with, and so I personally can say that you can get out of it. So somebody who's overweight and somebody who has acne, let's start with overweight. How do you stop being overweight? Well, you got to start with your belief. The first thing that you need to do is believe that you are beautiful, that you are capable, that you are not, you're not going to allow your current status to keep you from being healthy and having a long life. And this will be hard at first. It'll be hard to reprogram your mind, to take out the old beliefs and insert new ones. But if you're successful, if you feel beautiful, right, then it's not that hard to wear scantily clothing and get sweaty in front of people. So the gym becomes obtainable. If you feel beautiful, it becomes very easy to look at yourself with a sense of pride and go, you know what, today I think I'm going to eat a little healthier. These little victories, they come first from these thoughts. They first come from a place of belief. You have to believe that you're worthy and capable of these changes that you want. And once you believe it, then you create the thoughts. Those thoughts will create the actions. Actions will create results. Right? And then those results will reinforce your beliefs. So how do we do this? Well, one really, really easy way to start getting immediate results from changing your beliefs is to practice gratitude. I know that sounds really simple. It is, but it can be very hard too, because we as people are our biggest doubters. We judge ourselves extremely hard. And it can be very hard to kind of navigate past that self-doubt and that self-judgment. Especially like if you're in a bad mood, it can be really hard to find things to be grateful for. But practicing gratitude is just like a general reset of your belief as to why you do anything, right? Like, why get up in the morning? Well, because I love life. I'm very grateful to be alive. There's so many great things happening. I have worth, so here we go. This idea was originally injected into my head through a movie that came out in the early 2000s known as The Secret. And The Secret, it's also a book. There are many testimonials of people who have had very, very tremendous and specific results with this kind of practice. There are documented cases of people clipping out pictures of million-dollar mansions and, like spending years in their childhood kind of worshiping this idea of the lifestyle that comes with it, sitting poolside with all the nice drinks and the beautiful people. And then they pack all that stuff up, go to college, get a job. 10 years later, they're unpacking a box into their new house as they move into their new house, and they see the photograph of the house they just bought. There are these very specific instances. There is a direct connection, not just between the internal and the external world, but when you put that belief out there, whether it's silent or whether it's spoken, you are changing the magnetic field to neutralize to that belief through your thoughts. And so the more time you spend doing this, the more the external world, I feel, is able to reciprocate. The more the external world is able to show up as these beliefs manifesting for you. Well, I think that about covers it. We didn't get a lot of participation today, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it short because that is pretty much the nuts and bolts of what I wanted to share today. For all of you listening in the fifth dimension, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm going to keep doing these every Monday. Let's see. Let me pull up next week's conversation real quick before I go. Also, if you are not busy and you catch this before 7:30, I'm going to be facilitating a conversation at Lacuna Kava Bar about Indigenous people. Right? It's a very safe and friendly environment. Lots of lovely people. It's conducted through this group called Higher Self Friendly. Absolutely fantastic people. Highly recommend checking it out. It's not an actual bar, so it's just 18 and over. But back to the calendar. All right, so next week on Monday, here on Love, Happiness, and Health, we are going to talk about vulnerability. Vulnerability and why is it the key to happiness. This is definitely going to be a little taste of Brene Brown's work if you're familiar. All right, so yeah, next week, power of vulnerability. All right, thanks for watching, guys. That's all for me today. Much love.